He gave everything to his family, until he lost his job. His wife walked away with one of their children and called him a failure. Left with nothing but pain and a little daughter who refused to leave his side, he began carrying blocks just to survive. Why did his wife return when it was too late? Did he forgive her, or close the door forever? Watch till the end to find out. Adekono had once been the pride of Ajambody. Tall, lean, dark-skinned, with sharp cheekbones and a commanding gait, he was the kind of man whose presence filled a room without him having to say a word. He always dressed immaculately, fitted suits in navy blue or grey, polished shoes that gleamed, ties that matched perfectly. Every morning, as the first rays of the sun touched the dusty Ajambody streets, neighbors would watch him stride out of his cream and brown two-story house, briefcase in hand, keys jingling as he unlocked his silver Toyota Camry. Children would whisper, "That's Uncle Adekono," while their mother said, "Study hard, and you can be like him." He was more than a man, he was a symbol of what was possible, a Lagos boy who had climbed from ordinary beginnings into the ranks of the respected elite. Adekono worked as a senior manager in a commercial bank on Marina. His daily commute from Ajambody to the island was a ritual: wake at 5, leave before the roads clogged with traffic, his Camry's air conditioning humming while he listened to business news on the radio. By nightfall, he returned to his fortress, the house he built with sweat and long hours, its shiny iron gates a marker of his hard-won success. On good evenings, he would sit on the small balcony with a chilled malt, watching barefoot children chase tires in the dusty street, pride swelling in his chest. His wife, Ronk, bathed in his shine. Slim, light-skinned, with high cheekbones and a taste for fine lace and heavy gold jewelry, she moved with the swagger of a woman well cared for. Her wrapper always shimmered, her perfumes filled every room she entered, and her bangles clinked like a royal announcement. To the women in Ajambody, she was both inspiration and envy. To the men, she was proof of Adekono's success. Their two children, Femi and Dora, were the jewels of his crown. Femi, the elder, carried himself with quiet confidence, excelling in school. Dora, younger but sharp-eyed and spirited, clung to her father with the devotion only a daughter could show. Together, they were the family people pointed at and said, "That is how life should be." Adekono believed it too. He thought the ground beneath his feet was solid. But Lagos, that restless city that crowns men in the morning and strips them bare by nightfall, had other plans. The first blow came like a quiet whisper. The bank where he worked merged with another. Rumors of downsizing spread through the marble halls. Senior staff whispered in corners, their eyes darting, their voices low. Adekono reassured himself, he was too valuable, too experienced, too loyal to be cut off. But one Friday afternoon, after a week of tense silence, he was called into a glass-walled office. The HR manager cleared her throat, sliding a letter across the table with a rehearsed sadness. "Restructuring," she said. "It's not personal." His heart sank. The words blurred. 20 years of loyalty reduced to a single sheet of paper. At first, he wore courage like armor. He told Ronk it was a temporary setback. "Don't worry, my love. Give me time. I have experience, I have contacts. Another bank will call soon." He applied to firms, sent out CVs, called old colleagues. For a few weeks, hope stayed alive. But weeks turned into months. Calls from friends dried up. Messages went unanswered. One by one, the doors closed. His savings dwindled. The generator broke down. The Camry developed faults he couldn't afford to fix, and he began to take buses, pressed between sweating bodies, eyes staring past him as if he were invisible. Ronk's patience wore thin. She no longer wore her wrappers with pride but with irritation. She snapped at him over small things. "How can a man like you sit at home all day? Do you expect us to eat sand?" Adekono bit his tongue. He swallowed his shame. He told her again, "It's only for a while. Things will fall into place." But even in his heart, hope was slipping away. A year later, the breaking point came. They were in the parlor, the dim light from the dying bulb flickering as mosquitoes whined in the corner. Ronk's eyes blazed with contempt. Her voice rose, sharp as a knife. "You are a failure? I cannot suffer with you. I'm leaving." The words cracked through the room like thunder. She stormed into the bedroom, dragging a box from under the bed. Clothes tumbled out, wrappers folded in haste, shoes shoved into corners. She grabbed Femi's hand. The boy, confused, looked at his father, but Ronk pulled him away. Adekono collapsed onto the tiled floor, clutching his chest. His pride, his heart, his very essence, shattered. Tears fell onto the cold tiles as the sound of the front gate clanging shut echoed through the night. Silence. Then, a small hand touched his arm. Dora, barely 7, her eyes swollen with tears, stood beside him. "Daddy," she whispered, "I'm not leaving you. I'll stay." Those words became his anchor. With no job, no car, no savings, Adekono turned to the only work he could find. He became a laborer. Each morning, he left home before dawn, walking to construction sites in Ojota and Festac. He carried cement blocks on his shoulders until his bones screamed. He mixed sand and water until his palms cracked and bled. Sweat poured down his body like rain, soaking his once pristine shirts. Men who once shook his hand in admiration now passed him with pity or mockery. Some whispered, "Is this not Adekono, the banker? See how he has fallen." But every evening, when he staggered home, broken and sore, Dora met him at the door. She rubbed his shoulders with her tiny hands, her face full of love. "You're the strongest man in the world, Daddy." Those words stitched together wounds no medicine could heal. Years passed like this. The two-story house was gone, sold to cover debts. They now lived in a modest one-room apartment, zinc roof rusted, walls cracked. Life was small, but their bond was immense. Dora grew into a young woman of rare strength. She studied by candlelight when PHCN cut power, her textbooks spread across the floor. She tutored neighborhood children for coins, which she used to buy her own books. Sometimes she skipped meals so her father could eat. She endured mockery from neighbors. "Your mother was wise," some women whispered. "See how your father suffers." But Dora's eyes burned with quiet fire. She refused to bow. To her, Adekono was no failure. He was the man who sacrificed everything to keep her alive, the man whose hands, though rough and calloused, were filled with love. Then one afternoon, as Adekono sat outside their small apartment, a black SUV pulled up. Its tinted windows reflected the sun. From it stepped Ronk. She had aged, but luxury softened her lines. Her lace sparkled, her gold jewelry glistened, her perfume drowned out the smell of dust. Beside her stood Femi, now a tall young man, confident, though his eyes carried a flicker of unease. "Adekono," Ronk said, her voice trembling, "I came back. I made a mistake." The street grew still. Neighbors peeped through cracked windows, whispering. The prodigal wife had returned. Just then, Dora emerged, carrying a bowl of water. When she saw Ronk, her eyes hardened. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice cold as stone. Ronk forced a smile. "I want my family back. I want to make things right." Adekono's heart pounded. The woman who had once torn him apart now stood before him, asking for forgiveness. Memories of laughter and love wrestled with scars of betrayal. Could he forgive her? Ronk returned again and again, pleading. She confessed that the man she left him for had abandoned her, that life had humbled her. She begged for another chance. She wept. Femi, caught between mother and father, began visiting often. Slowly, he and Adekono found fragile ground. But Dora stood firm. "Daddy," she said one night, her eyes burning, "don't let her back. She called you a failure. She left us when we needed her. How can you forget that?" "She's still your mother," Adekono whispered. "Yes," Dora said, her voice breaking, "but she's not our family anymore." The test came on Dora's graduation day. Against all odds, she finished university with honors. Adekono wore his only suit, carefully ironed. Pride radiated from him. Cameras clicked, people congratulated. Ronk appeared again, dressed in bright ankara, smiling as if she had been part of the journey. She reached out to hug Dora. But Dora stepped back. Her voice rang out, clear as a bell. My mother is the man who carried blocks so I could stand here today. Gasps filled the air. Adekona's eyes welled with tears. Pride surged in his chest like a flood. That one sentence erased years of shame. Ronk fell to her knees, weeping. Adekona, please, forgive me. Take me back. Let us be a family again. The crowd waited. Even Femi held his breath. Adekona looked at Ronk, then at Dora, then at his son. His voice cracked as he spoke. Ronk, I forgive you. But I cannot take you back. The door you closed that night, it can never open again. Silence. Then Ronk crumpled in tears. Adekona turned, holding Dora's hand. Together, they walked into the sunset, their shadows long against the red dust. The neighbors would speak of that day for years. Some called Adekona foolish, others wise. But all agreed, his daughter's loyalty had given him a dignity no riches could buy. Adekona never remarried. He poured his love into Dora, watching her rise. And in his heart, he carried one truth. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not hate, but living well without the one who betrayed you. The end. Thanks for watching. Subscribe now for more stories. Like, share and comment your thoughts below.